Destructive, intense, and extreme wildfires like this one have happened and will happen again. It's up to us to be prepared and do what we can to reduce the impact of a wildfire event. Hi, I'm Jim Pietrangelo, and I'll be joined by a special guest today to talk with you about wildfires, the dangers, and the steps you can take to protect yourselves and help protect your property and community. We are going to provide information to you that will help you determine the wildfire hazard in your area and how you can become FireWise. We urge you to listen carefully. It could save your life, your property, and these beautiful mountains you and your neighbors call home. Some areas throughout Colorado are ranked as relatively safe from wildfire, while others are extremely dangerous. As more forested lands are developed and recreational uses increase, more lives and homes are potentially threatened by wildfire each year. Fire serves a complex and necessary role in fire-dependent ecosystems. It has an important ecological function. Natural, free-burning fires played an important role in influencing vegetation and the life cycles of trees and plant communities. Many species even became dependent on this process, or fire-adapted, able to survive, regenerate, and thrive in a fire-prone environment. Fire is a force that shaped our wildlands for centuries, but in the eyes of land managers and the public, fire became the enemy. Land management agencies and their partners got very good at putting out low-intensity fires, which are used to clean up the forest. Now we are faced with a century's worth of forest debris. These same forests are the places where people have their homes and where they come to play. Unfortunately, we've now created conditions that lead to even more severe and costly wildfires. So if you live in or play in the grasslands, foothills, or mountains, you are at risk. Wildfires are affected by fuels, topography, and weather. Fuels are defined as grass, brush, trees, dead vegetation, as well as homes and other structures. Topography, the lay of the land, and the steepness of hills helps determine the spread of fire. Because heat rises, fire spread increases as slopes become steeper. Homes built in canyons or on ridgetops often have less chance of surviving wildfire. Weather is the most critical and most unpredictable element of wildfire behavior. It is constantly changing and often determines fire size. Hot, windy days with low humidity create favorable conditions for wildfire. In Colorado, we get plenty of these days throughout the year. So how and what can you do to prepare? How do you get FireWise? We're going to show you in this program. But remember this, it may be the most important point of all. Protecting your home is your responsibility. Don't assume firefighters can save your structure or property. As much as they may want to, conditions may make it impossible to safely reach and protect your home. A home that has not been made FireWise may be passed by for a defendable home. What you do to prepare yourself and your home for a wildfire will contribute more to your safety and the protection of your home than any firefighter response could. So let's get FireWise by talking with Ed Nesselrode, an expert in wildland firefighting. Ed, what's the first thing that you think about when you arrive on scene of a wildfire?
Safety comes first, Jim. What are the safety aspects as they relate to firefighters, to the property that we're looking at, and to the residents in the area?
What else do you consider?
There's several criteria that we use. We look first at the fuels. Heavy fuels, light fuels in the area, how close are they to structures, what kind of problem are they likely to pose in fueling the fire? We look at access too. How easy is it to get into the area? How easy is it to get people and equipment out of the area, particularly if you need to move them in a hurry?
How critical is water?
Water's always critical, but it's a luxury that we often don't find in mountain subdivisions. Sometimes the only water we have is the water that's in our engines and in our tanks when we arrive.
You have a hillside of homes, a fire threatening those homes, and limited resources. What do you do?
You make hard decisions. Often we find that when we arrive in a subdivision, there are more homes at risk than we have crews and engines to put into structure protection. So we look around and make an assessment. Which homes look like they're going to make it through? Which homes are in more difficulty? In which homes have the homeowners done more to prepare themselves for a fire? Those are the homes where we're going to put the resources first, and the others we may have to pass by.
And how do homeowners prepare themselves?
I think they educate themselves, Jim. They work hard to understand what's at work here, to be able to look at their home and evaluate it, determine the risks, and try to look at it the way we do. And they need a sound evacuation plan that they've talked about and practiced with their family, with a primary route out and a secondary in case the primary route is blocked.
Ed, we've talked about the big picture, how firefighters evaluate a subdivision. Now, how can homeowners use that information to become prepared in FireWise?
We've got some examples, Jim. Let's go take a look. Jim, before we look at the house, let's talk a little bit about the access. As you can see, this is a good, well-surfaced road. It's straight, doesn't have any narrow constrictions like a bridge or a culvert, and it'll be easy for people and equipment to get in and out. And as you may have noticed when we got here, the address is very legible, plainly marked, easy for either medical or fire responders to see quickly. See anything else about the vegetation that strikes you?
Yeah, I noticed there's not a lot on either side of the road.
I think that's good. Low vegetation, not a lot of trees close to the road, and you don't have that canopy overhead that could be a problem for equipment. Let's go see if the rest of the house looks this good.
Sounds good.
Jim, our homeowner has chosen fire-resistant materials. Stone, stucco, concrete roof tiles.
And the tiles, I take it, are more fire resistive than wood shingles.
They are. Concrete, fiberglass, asbestos, metal. They're all less susceptible to either catching embers or producing embers and spreading fire.
I've also noticed there wasn't a lot of vegetation or trees close to the house. Why is that?
It's what we call defensible space, creating a clearing around houses and other buildings that breaks up continuous fuel, which can allow fire to move from a tree to a tree to a tree to a house. It's useful because it gives firefighters a chance to work in and around a house if they need to, reduces the opportunity for fire to move from trees to the house, and as importantly, reduces the opportunity for fire to move from the house back into the trees.
Ed, I've noticed on some of the trees around the house, some of the limbs closest to the ground have been cut away. Why is that?
The homeowner's treating what we call ladder fuels. Those are fuels that start at the ground in brush and extend upward through low branches, the medium part of the tree, and up into the tree tops, giving fire a chance to climb into the tree tops just like climbing a ladder. It's very dangerous because once fire gets in the tree tops, that's when it moves the fastest, that's when it presents the greatest danger to homes.
Ed, it looks like this is a good example of a FireWise house. Are there any other things homeowners can do to protect themselves and their homes from a wildland fire?
Let's review some of the things, Jim, from kind of top to bottom. When you start at the top, look at the chimney. Does it have a spark arrestor on it? Look at the roof. Is it made of the right kind of preventive materials? Are there overhanging limbs or branches that might carry fire to the roof? Are there needles on the rooftop or in the gutters that could also help support fire? Making sure that the siding materials are as fire resistant as you can have them. Looking around the house, pre-planning when you first situate the house and buildings on the site, picking a good aspect and taking advantage of natural features. And then, of course, building in that defensible space that clears vegetation, and not just trees from around the house, but also does a regular mowing of shrubs and grasses that are close to the house. Of course, these suggestions won't cover every house on every site, but there's lots of information available. I suggest people contact their local fire department or state forester for additional help.
Thanks, Ed. The information you provided today will be very valuable to homeowners.
It was my pleasure, Jim.
Remember, it is your responsibility to prepare yourself and your home for wildfire. Don't gamble on the possibility that firefighters will be able to do it for you. In the event of a fire, be prepared and be ready to evacuate as needed. All right, let's go over a checklist of all the key points we discussed today. For your subdivision, make sure you have more than one way in and out. Ensure that bridges and culverts can sustain the weight loads of emergency vehicles. Street signs should be clearly posted. Be aware of the types of vegetation in your subdivision and the associated fire danger. Pay attention to slope and topographic features since they influence fire spread. Try to establish a year-round water supply for your community. Make sure emergency vehicles can access your home easily. Post your address clearly. When planning or building a home, choose fire-resistant building materials. Install a spark arrestor on your chimney. Establish a defensible space around your home by modifying the existing vegetation, removing ladder fuels, stacking wood piles a minimum of 30 feet from your home, and maintaining a defensible space annually. In the event of a wildfire, there will be a multi-agency response to help contain and extinguish the blaze. But resources are limited, and fighting these kinds of fires is particularly difficult. You can't expect firefighters to be there to protect your home, and you need to be prepared to save yourself and your property. The best way to do that? Get FireWise.